On March 13th, Taylor Burns posted screenshots of an email exchange between herself and an HR representative of SkipTheDishes on her Twitter account. SkipTheDishes is an online-based Canadian startup that allows users to order takeout from a variety of restaurants. Burns had gone through a first-round job interview, waiting for the second, when she politely asked the representative what kind of wage and job benefits she would be receiving should she fill the position. Simple questions surrounding simple matters: wages and benefits, the things that employees get in exchange for their labor. In other words, the thing that actually makes people go out and get jobs. SkipTheDishes saw the question in an entirely different light. Rather than an interviewee asking standard interview questions, the company treated Burns' request for information as flagrant corporate misconduct. Citing their unique corporate culture, the HR representative for SkipTheDishes promptly canceled Burns' second interview, tossing her to the side, claiming that her question as to how this job would help sustain her was evidence of a priorities misaligned between her and SkipTheDishes. While we should be aghast by this kind of behavior, it's nothing to be in shock over. We should always expect big business to exploit workers. It's in the corporate mandate. What is surprising is SkipTheDishes' attempt to hide their exploitation behind their so-called commitment to corporate culture and hard work, as if any of these things justify the unfair treatment of workers. No, SkipTheDishes, nobody wants to work with you because of your corporate culture. People need jobs to eat. End of story. It is this kind of appeal to values and work ethic that make up a strategy companies are increasingly using in order to deny their workers increased compensation and improved working conditions. By emphasizing traditionally esteemed character traits, corporations can suppress workers' mobilization while avoiding public outcry. We prize a strong work ethic is code for work for cheap and don't expect regular breaks. We expect self-starters, and intrinsic motivation translates to don't ask questions when profits rise, but your wage doesn't. Word games of this kind are all slick optic strategies designed to spin public perception so as to create the facade that exploitation is a thing of the past. Semantic machinations of this sort are all attempts to shift the balance of power more so in favor of the employer at the expense of the employee. By framing their practices as appeals to virtue, companies face less backlash should they successfully sell the lie that workers' poor circumstances are the result of their own personal failings, which they are personally responsible for, rather than the unfortunate byproducts that stem from the structural woes of state-sponsored capitalism. Of course, exploitation in the labor market will always exist, so long as there persists both a capitalist class and a working class. Governments should be doing everything in their power to do away with this division. More immediate action, however, can be both punitive and regulatory in nature. Strict compliance with existing labor laws clearly needs to be enforced. However, to anyone with even 2 eyes and half a brain, it is quite clear that new additions are needed in order to grapple with the changing dynamics of the workforce. At this stage, it is quite clear for any acute observer that existing labor laws drafted decades ago are no longer adequate tools for diffusing corporate power. Government needs to take a more interventionist stance on behalf of workers. Unfortunately, financial action on the part of the government has been sorely lacking, and the sums that have been paid out have gone out to all the wrong players with too few stipulations. Once a small-time prairie pipe dream, SkipTheDishes ended up on the tail end of millions of dollars in government support and has since become a multinational corporation bought out by their British rival Just Eat for $110 million. SkipTheDishes has set out to become a major player in the sharing economy, but at the expense of their workers. To paraphrase Canada's all-time favorite American folk hero, we need to bust up big business, or at least hold them to task. When regulating the private sector, subsidizing business should always come second to enforcing a robust set of labor laws. The government has a duty to step in and halt the unethical practices of what can be called Big App, the new wave of technologically based business models. These companies reap massive profits by capitalizing on the regulatory wild west of the sharing economy, and they mask their exploitation of workers with justificatory references to their corporate culture, wolf in sheep's clothing social media campaigns, and the innocuous click of many a like button. Governments would do well to exercise their authority and seize the exploitative practices of these companies that have their employees paid dirt while they are carrying out the fundamental operations that make the corporate model feasible. In the meantime, we should start this year's round of spring cleaning by taking a much closer look at the apps we have downloaded on our phones.